Hi dear kids, I hope you all are safe, right, and doing your self assessment every day, isn't it? Yes, very good. Now, let us see your second part in your 6th lesson. So, in your 6th lesson, your topic of your 6th lesson is plants, the producers, right. So, I hope you are aware about the first part, right. So, in the first part we saw about leaf, right. So, we saw the leaf prepares the food, right. So, now in this session we are going to see how the leaves prepare its food, right. So, let us see. So, chlorophyll. So, this is a pigment which is present in the leaf, right. So, in the first part you saw it is a green pigment which is present in the leaf, right. So, this is one of the raw materials that the plants use to prepare the food, right. So, you can see a plant here. So, there is leaves, right. So, the leaves absorb sunlight through the pigment called chlorophyll. So, the chlorophyll pigment in the leaves absorbs the sunlight. So, how do the leaves prepare their food? How we prepare any recipe? For example, if we want to prepare a mango juice, so what you will do? You have to take the mango slices, you have to take the mango pulp, and you have to add some honey, and you have to add some water, right. So, these things are called as raw materials, right. So, these raw materials when we mix together, so we get the food, right. The same way the plants take up the raw materials. So, they use the raw materials and they prepare the food, right. So, what are the raw materials? So, the raw materials like sunlight from the sun, and then carbon dioxide from the air. So, the carbon dioxide is absorbed from the air through the stomata. So, what is stomata? Yes, of course, stomata is a air holes that is present in the leaf, right. So, through the stomata the plant breathes. How we have nose, the same way the plants has stomata. Thereby, with the help of the stomata absorbs the carbon dioxide which is present in the air, right. So, they use the carbon dioxide, sunlight, and they take the water through the roots. So, once we just a plant, that is not enough, right. So, we have to pour water, the plants also need water, right. So, the water absorbs through the roots, right. So, the roots absorb the water, it also absorbs the minerals from the soil contains minerals, right. So, the roots absorb the water and the minerals, and the roots will send the water and minerals into the stem, and thereby the stem supplies the water and minerals to the leaf, right. So, thereby the leaves get the water and they get the sunlight and they get the carbon dioxide. Now, let us see. So, what are the, so you can see here the sunlight is absorbed from the air, the carbon dioxide is absorbed, and through the roots the water is absorbed. So, let us see. So, now let us see what are the raw materials that is needed for a leaf to prepare the food. So, now let us write. So, the raw materials. So, they are called as raw materials. So, what are the raw materials that we saw? It needs water, right. So, the water is absorbed through the roots. So, the roots means வேர், right. So, ஒரு செடிக்கு கீழே மண்ணு கீழே வந்து வேர் இருக்கும் இல்லையா. ஸோ நம்ம வாட்டர் எங்கே போர் பண்ணுவோம், நம்ம சாயில் அண்டர் in the soil only we pour. So, thereby the soil contains water and minerals, and this water and minerals are absorbed through the roots, right. So, through the roots absorb the water and minerals to prepare the food, and then the leaves. So, the stomata present in the leaf. So, the stomata absorbs, yes, so the stomata absorbs carbon dioxide. Okay. So, this is the raw material and water is a raw material. So, stomata absorbs the carbon dioxide in the air, and then the leaves, the chlorophyll, as I said, the chlorophyll. So, chlorophyll means what? Rohan, tell me what is chlorophyll? Yes, it is the green pigment present in the leaf, right. So, the green pigment, the chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight, yes. So, sunlight is a raw material. So, now 3 raw materials the plant will take up, they mix the water, carbon dioxide and sunlight, and they mix together and they prepare the food, right. So, now you know how the plants prepare the food. So, the plant needs sunlight, the plant need water, the plant need air, that is carbon dioxide, yes. So, then only the plant can able to produce the food, right. So, what are the raw materials? Water through the roots, carbon dioxide through the stomata in the leaves, sunlight through the chlorophyll in the leaves, right. So, these are the raw materials. So, now this process, once it takes up the sunlight, so this process is called as photosynthesis. So, photosynthesis. So, now the plant take up all these raw materials, right. So, this process is called as photosynthesis. So, photo means light. So, photo means light. And synthesis means put together. Synthesis means put together. So, the process by which plants prepare its own food with the help of sunlight, water and carbon dioxide. So, this process is called photosynthesis. So, photo means light. The meaning of the photo is light, and synthesis means put together. So, maybe in your higher studies, when you study higher secondary and all, you will get the question, what is the meaning of synthesis. So, you have to explain, you have to write, it means put together, the raw materials are put together to prepare the food, right. Yes. Now, let us see how the plants use and store the food. So, we all learned that the leaves prepare the food, right. So, why they prepare the food? How we need food, the same way the plants also need food, right. So, to grow, to stay alive. So, how we live, the same way the plants has to live, right. So, they are living things. So, they need to grow and they need to live, right. So, that is why the plants prepare their own food, right. So, now we cannot say all the food is used by the plants. So, for example, we use the food that we take in, but the remaining food we store in our body, right. The same way plants will not use up all the food that they are preparing. So, the remaining food that they are not using for growth, they will store in their parts of the plant. So, we can see the storage of the food that the plants prepared is stored in these ways, right. So, it can be in the form of fruits, it can be in the form of vegetables, it can be in the form of roots, it can be in the form of stem, and it can be in the form of seeds, right. So, in these materials we can see the plant has stored the food. So, that is why we eat the plant sources, right. So, we get the plant sources from the plant, right. So, these are all the parts of the plant where the plants store the food, right. Yes. So, now let us see what are the type of food that they store. So, mostly the plants prepare their food in the form of starch. So, let us see. So, they prepare the food in the form of starch, 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 right. So, they prepare the food in the form of starch, and this starch, when you take up and see the starch, means it is full of in the form of simple sugars. It is completely made of simple sugars. So, mostly most of the plant products, they contain the starch, right. So, the storage of the plants in their parts of the plant, maybe as an apple or maybe as a fruit or maybe as a vegetable or maybe in the stem. So, that form, when you take up and see, it is full of sugars or it full of starch, right. So, starch is a form of food stored in the plants, right. So, the plants use the food that is prepared by the leaf and the remaining food is stored in the part of the plant. So, in the form of fruits, vegetables, stem or in the form of seeds also. So, the sugar that is in the form of simple sugars or in the form of starch, right. So, that food only we all are consuming, we all are eating the plant sources. So, all the plant sources are rich in starch, it is fully made of simple sugars, right. So, now let us see the interdependence of plants and animals. So, the dependence between the plants and animals, of course, we not only human beings, even the animals need plants to survive, to live, right, because most of the animals, they eat plant foods. So, for example, if we take a deer or a cow or buffalo, so what they eat? They eat completely full of plants or the plant parts of the plant, right. So, they need somehow plants and animals, they are interdependent for each other, right. So, that only we are going to see. Here you can see a tree. So, a tree leaves. So, the leaves is converted, the leaves can be consumed by the animals, like say about plant eating animals, and the same way some more animals, they depend on the other animals. So, thereby we can see the interdependence of the animals, right. So, this is the form of the interdependence of the animals. So, the seeds are eaten by the mouse can be eaten by a snake, again the snake can be eaten by a vulture or any birds, right. So, there is a interlinking between the plants and animals. So, we should always maintain some balance in the nature. So, once we maintain a balance in the nature, because we cannot say that animals should be more than the plants, there should be a balance between the animals as well as the plants. Why? Because plants take up the carbon dioxide and they leave out the oxygen, right, but animals, they take in the oxygen and they leave out the carbon dioxide. So, that is why animals need the plants and of course plants need carbon dioxide, right. So, that is why we are exhaling, animals and human beings, we are exhaling the carbon dioxide. Suppose if you think that if there is no plants, the number of plants has reduced, so what will happen? So, the amount of carbon dioxide in the air increases, right, and that is not good for the animals or the human beings, right. So, we need oxygen. If the air contains more amount of carbon dioxide, we cannot get much amount of oxygen. The same way, if we think animals, the number of animals has reduced, the count of the animals has reduced, the same way the oxygen content in the air becomes less, right. So, that is why the oxygen content in the air increases, because what happens, there will not be much amount of animals to take up the oxygen, but you can see the inhalation of the carbon dioxide will be more, right. Yes. So, we have to maintain the balance in the nature, right. So, that is why we need to plant more trees, right. We have to plant, at least if you have soil at your home, try to plant more trees. So, thereby it is very essential, and also plants, they depend on the animals for the carbon dioxide, and animals, they need oxygen as well as they need the food from the plants, right. So, there should be always some maintenance in the number of the plants and the animals. So, that is why we have to plant more trees, right. So, we are every year in India we celebrate one Mahotsav Day. What is this one Mahotsav Day? One Mahotsav Day is nothing but Forest Day. So, every first week of July, first week of July. So, every first week of July we celebrate one Mahotsav Day. What is this one Mahotsav Day? We need to plant more trees, right. So, during the first week of July, try to plant more trees and make aware of your other people, for example, your neighbors or your younger sisters or elder sisters or brothers. So, you have to tell them to plant more trees, right. And World Environment Day is celebrated on June 5th. So, once we plant more trees, so we can save our environment. So, we can keep our earth green, right? Yes. So, when we celebrate one Mahotsav Day, first week of July, and when we celebrate World Environment Day, it is on June 5th every year, right. So, now children, so in this session you learned how the leaves they prepare the food. So, with the help of raw materials like sunlight, water and carbon dioxide, they prepare the food. But you should know from where the sunlight, where the water and where the carbon dioxide is absorbed. So, through the chlorophyll in the leaves, the chlorophyll absorb the sunlight, and through the roots absorb the water and minerals, and through the stomata in the leaf they absorb the carbon dioxide. So, they all put together, they are synthesized together like water, carbon dioxide and the what? So, water, carbon dioxide and sunlight, isn't it? So, they mix together and they prepare the food, right. So, and also we cannot say all the food is not completely utilized by the plants. So, some food is stored inside the parts of the plant. So, maybe in the form of fruits, vegetables, stem in the stem part or in the seed part or in the leaf part. So, they store the food, right. So, that food will be in the form of starch and it is full of in the form of simple sugars, right. So, that we saw, and also we saw we need to always maintain some balance between the nature. For example, plants and animals should have a balance between them. Why? Because not to increase the carbon dioxide in the air or not to increase the oxygen in the air, right. So, there should be some balance, and also of course, all the animals and of course, human beings, we need plants. So, we almost eat the plant foods, right. So, most of the vegetarians and most of the people, they consume more amount of plant foods compared with the animal foods, right. So, that is why we should always maintain the balance between the animals as well as the plants, right. And that we saw, and we saw about the two important days. So, on June 5th, we celebrate World Environment Day, and on first week of July, we celebrate one Mahotsav Day in India. So, it is also called as Forest Day. So, in that day, we need to at least plant one tree. So, try to plant at least one sapling on that day or on that week at least, right. So, that we saw. So, almost your lesson is completed in this. So, now children, after you take up the subject material, so you will have the materials like this. So, this is your subject material that you have to copy in your science subject note, right. So, after you copy from the subject note, you can read for your self assessment. So, you will get the questions. So, choose the correct answer, and here we have added some extra questions also. Do not think that that is not given in the book, it is a creative questions that is added, right. So, do not just waste your time just searching in the book, right. So, this is the creative question, right. So, this will not be in your book, this is an extra question, right. And then you have fill in the blanks. So, here also we have asked the one extra question, that is a creative question, match the following, true or false, answer true or false, and pick the odd one. So, you have to see pick the odd one, and you have to find out which is the odd one. For example, sunlight, water, carbon dioxide. So, which is the odd one? Yes, of course, oxygen, because the plants does not need oxygen. So, they take up the carbon dioxide and they leave out the oxygen, right. So, oxygen is not necessary to prepare the food. So, that is why oxygen is a odd one, right. So, like that you will have the 2 marks as well as 5 marks, and you will have the diagram. So, in diagram you have to draw the leaf and you have to mark the parts, and photosynthesis diagram. So, photosynthesis diagram also you have to draw the diagram. So, right children, hope this class is useful for you. So, it is just not just listening to the video, right, or just watching the video. You have to apply this in your life. So, try to plant more trees, right. So, thank you, have a good day.